The water was spreading across the marble floor of the penthouse bathroom faster than Fiona Sterling could think, and she stood frozen in the doorway, designer heels in one hand and her phone in the other, realizing that all her billions couldn't stop a burst pipe from ruining her morning. She had fired her building manager 3 days ago for incompetence, and now she was paying the price. The plumber her assistant usually called was booked solid for the next week, and every high-end service in Manhattan had laughed at her emergency rate offer. Desperate, she had scrolled through her phone until she found a small ad for Miller's Plumbing, a modest operation based in Brooklyn that promised same-day service. The voice that answered was rough but kind, and within 40 minutes, a blue van pulled up outside her building. Fiona watched from her window as a man stepped out of the van, toolbox in hand. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing work jeans and a simple flannel shirt that had seen better days. His dark hair was slightly messy, and even from 15 floors up, she could see the weariness in his movements. When her doorman called up to announce his arrival, she told him to send the plumber right up, then rushed back to the bathroom where water continued its relentless spread toward her bedroom. The doorbell rang, and Fiona opened it to find Marcus Davis standing there, toolbox in hand, looking at her with clear blue eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. He was handsome in an understated way, with strong features and calloused hands that spoke of years of honest work. There was something solid about him, something real that made her feel strangely off balance in her own home. "Miss Sterling, I am Marcus from Miller's Plumbing." "Well, I am Miller's Plumbing, actually. Where is the problem?" His voice was deep and warm, with a hint of exhaustion underneath. Fiona stepped aside, gesturing toward the bathroom. "It is the sink, or the pipe under it. I do not know. There is water everywhere." Marcus followed her through the sprawling penthouse, and she caught him taking in the expensive artwork, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, the furniture that cost more than most people made in a year. But there was no judgment in his eyes, just a quiet assessment. When they reached the bathroom, he immediately dropped to his knees, opening the cabinet under the sink. "Can you shut off the water main?" he asked, already pulling tools from his box. "I do not know where that is," Fiona admitted, feeling foolish. Marcus glanced up at her, and for a moment, she thought she saw amusement flicker across his face, but he just nodded, standing up. "It is usually in a utility closet or near the kitchen. Let me look." She followed him as he methodically checked her apartment, finally finding the water shutoff in a closet near the kitchen that she had never opened. He turned the valve, and the rushing sound from the bathroom finally stopped. When they returned, he was back on his knees, working with quiet efficiency. Fiona stood in the doorway, unsure what to do with herself. She was used to giving orders, to being in control. But here was this man, working in her bathroom, and she felt completely out of her depth. "How long will it take?" she asked. "Depends on what I find. Could be an hour, could be 3. The pipe is old, might need replacing." He glanced back at her. "You do not have to stand there. I will let you know when I am done." There was no rudeness in his tone, just a straightforward honesty that was oddly refreshing. Fiona nodded and retreated to her living room, where she tried to focus on work emails on her laptop. But she found herself distracted, listening to the sounds of him working, the clank of metal, the occasional grunt of effort. After about 20 minutes, Marcus appeared in the doorway. There was water on his shirt, and his hands were dirty, but his expression was calm. The pipe was corroded. "I have got a replacement in my van, but it is going to take a couple hours to install it properly. Is that okay?" "Yes, of course. Whatever you need to do." Fiona paused. "Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" Marcus looked surprised, as if the offer was unexpected. "Coffee would be great, if it is not too much trouble." "No trouble at all," Fiona said, standing up. She went to her kitchen, which she rarely used, and fumbled with the expensive espresso machine that her interior designer had insisted she needed. After several attempts, she managed to produce something that resembled coffee and brought it to him. Marcus took the cup with a grateful nod. "Thanks. This is a nice place you have got here. Thank you, I bought it 5 years ago. Fiona leaned against the door frame. Do you do this full time? Plumbing? Yeah, for about 10 years now. Started my own business 8 years ago when my daughter was born. It is not glamorous, but it pays the bills. There was pride in his voice, mixed with something else. Love, maybe, or determination. You have a daughter. Fiona found herself curious, wanting to know more. Emma, she is 8, smartest kid you will ever meet. Marcus's entire face changed when he talked about her, softening in a way that made him look younger. She is at school right now, but she will be waiting for me when I am done today. We have got a routine. I pick her up, we get ice cream on Fridays, and then we do homework together. There was something in the way he said it, a quiet devotion that made Fiona's chest tighten. She realized he was wearing a wedding ring, and her curiosity shifted to disappointment, though she could not quite explain why. Your wife must appreciate having such a dedicated father around. Marcus's expression clouded. My wife passed away 3 years ago, cancer. It has been just me and Emma since then. I am so sorry, Fiona said, and she meant it. The pain in his eyes was raw and real, even after 3 years. Thank you. Marcus took a sip of his coffee. We are doing okay. Some days are harder than others, but Emma is strong. She keeps me going. He set down the cup. I should get back to work. Fiona watched him return to the bathroom, and she found herself unable to focus on anything else. She kept thinking about what he had said, about his daughter, about his wife. There was a depth to him that she rarely encountered in her world of boardrooms and business deals. Everyone she knew was always calculating, always playing an angle. But Marcus seemed genuine in a way that was almost foreign to her. An hour later, he emerged again, this time with his toolbox. All done. The pipe is replaced. Everything is sealed up tight. You should not have any more problems. Fiona followed him to the bathroom and saw that not only was the pipe fixed, but he had also cleaned up all the water and even wiped down the cabinet. The bathroom looked better than it had before the leak. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Just doing my job, Marcus said, pulling out a handwritten invoice. The parts and labor come to $340. Fiona looked at the invoice. For 2 hours of work and materials, it seemed absurdly low. In her world, people charged 10 times that for far less. Are you sure? This seems like too little. Marcus looked puzzled. That is my standard rate. If you think it is too much, I can take off the emergency call fee. No, I think it is too little, Fiona said quickly. You did excellent work and you came right away. Let me pay you $500. Miss Sterling, I charge what the work is worth. $340 is fair. There was a firmness in his voice that told her he would not budge. Fiona found herself respecting that, even as it frustrated her. She wrote him a check for $500 anyway, handing it to him. The extra is a tip for being prompt and professional. Marcus looked at the check, then at her. For a moment, she thought he might argue, but then he folded it carefully and put it in his pocket. Thank you. That is very generous. As he gathered his things to leave, Fiona found herself not wanting him to go, which was ridiculous. He was a plumber. She was a billionaire. They lived in completely different worlds, but there was something about him that made her feel more grounded than she had in years. Marcus, she said as he reached the door, would you be willing to come back, not for plumbing? Well, maybe for plumbing if I need it. But I have other things that need fixing around here. Small repairs. My building manager used to handle them, but I fired him and I have not found a replacement yet. Marcus turned, considering her. I do handyman work too. What kind of repairs? Honestly, I do not know. But this place always needs something. Would you be interested in a monthly retainer? You could come by once a week, check things over, fix whatever needs fixing. The words were spilling out of her, and she was not even sure why she was saying them. How much are we talking? Marcus asked cautiously. What would be fair to you? He thought for a moment. I could do 4 hours a week for $800 a month plus materials. That would cover basic maintenance and small repairs. It was pocket change to Fiona, but she could see it meant something to him. Deal. Can you start next Friday? I can do that. Marcus extended his hand, and when Fiona shook it, she was struck by how solid and warm his grip was. See you next week, Miss Sterling. Call me Fiona. Fiona, he repeated, and she liked the way her name sounded in his voice. See you next week. After he left, Fiona stood in her empty penthouse and wondered what she had just done. She had hired a plumber to do handyman work she probably did not need, just because she wanted to see him again. It was impulsive and unlike her, but she could not bring herself to regret it. The week passed slowly. Fiona threw herself into work, closing a major acquisition deal and attending a charity gala where she smiled and made small talk with people she barely tolerated. But in the quiet moments, she found herself thinking about Marcus, about the way he talked about his daughter, about the sadness in his eyes when he mentioned his wife, about his calloused hands and his honest smile. When Friday came, she found herself anxious in a way she had not been since she was a teenager. She changed her outfit 3 times before settling on designer jeans and a cashmere sweater, casual but still expensive. When the doorbell rang at exactly 9 in the morning, she took a breath before opening it. Marcus stood there looking the same as he had the week before, toolbox in hand, wearing jeans and a work shirt. But this time, he smiled when he saw her. Morning, Fiona. Where do you want me to start? She had made a list, partly because she genuinely needed things done and partly to justify having him there. A loose cabinet door in the kitchen, a squeaky hinge on her bedroom closet, a picture frame that needed hanging in her office. Small things that she had been ignoring for months. Marcus worked methodically, moving from task to task with quiet efficiency. Fiona tried to work on her laptop, but she kept finding excuses to be in whatever room he was in. She brought him water. She asked questions about his process. She found herself telling him about her business, things she rarely talked about with anyone. I started my first company when I was 23, she said, watching him fix her cabinet door. It was a tech startup, nothing revolutionary, but we got lucky with timing. Sold it for $50 million when I was 26, and I have been building from there ever since. That is impressive, Marcus said, testing the door to make sure it was secure. You must be smart. I work hard, Fiona corrected, and I am good at seeing opportunities that others miss. But mostly, I just never stop. Sounds lonely, Marcus said quietly. The observation caught her off guard. What do you mean? Just that building an empire sounds like it does not leave much time for anything else. He stood up, wiping his hands on a rag. My wife used to say that. Before she got sick, she was always pushing me to expand, to grow the business. But after Emma was born, she changed her mind, said that time was more valuable than money. I did not really understand until I lost her. Fiona felt something twist in her chest. Do you regret not expanding? Not even a little bit. I get to pick my daughter up from school every day. I get to help with her homework. I get to be there when she needs me. That is worth more than any amount of money. He looked at her directly. No offense. None taken, Fiona said softly. I think you might be right. They fell into an easy conversation after that, talking about everything and nothing. Marcus told her about Emma, about how she loved science and wanted to be an astronaut, about how she was learning to play the violin, even though it sounded like cats fighting, about how she still slept with the teddy bear her mother had given her. Fiona found herself talking about things she never discussed, about how she had grown up poor, the daughter of a single mother who worked 3 jobs, about how she had been driven by a desperate need to never be that powerless again, about how somewhere along the way, she had built a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt empty on the inside. I am 34 years old, she said, surprising herself with the admission. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I have a penthouse in Manhattan, a house in the Hamptons, an apartment in Paris. I can go anywhere, do anything, buy anything, but I do not have anyone to share it with. I go to bed alone and wake up alone, and sometimes I wonder what the point of it all is. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. It is not too late, you know, to find what you are looking for. What if I do not even know what I am looking for? Then maybe you need to start paying attention, he said gently. Sometimes what we need is right in front of us, but we are too busy looking ahead to see it. Their eyes met, and Fiona felt something shift between them. It was not quite attraction, though she was attracted to him. It was more like recognition, like finding something she had not known she was missing. The 4 hours passed too quickly. When Marcus packed up his tools, Fiona felt a pang of disappointment. "Same time next week," she asked, trying to keep her voice casual. "I will be here," Marcus promised. "And Fiona, thank you. For listening, I do not talk about Sarah much anymore. It felt good." After he left, Fiona sat on her couch for a long time thinking. She was falling for him. It was absurd and impractical and completely illogical, but she could not deny it. There was something about Marcus that made her feel alive in a way nothing else did. Not her business deals, not her wealth, not any of it. The weeks began to blur together in the best possible way. Every Friday, Marcus would show up at 9 in the morning, and they would spend 4 hours together. Sometimes he actually fixed things. Other times, they just talked. Fiona found herself looking forward to Fridays the way she used to look forward to Christmas as a child. She learned more about him with each visit. About how he had been a construction worker before becoming a plumber, working his way up from nothing. About how he had met his wife, Sarah, at a community college class and fallen in love with her laugh. About how her death had nearly destroyed him, and only Emma had given him a reason to keep going. Marcus learned about her too. About the loneliness of her childhood, always being the poor kid in a rich school on scholarship. About her mother's death when she was 21, right before she started her first company. About how success had come at the cost of relationships, friendships, any sense of normal life. "Why did you never get married?" Marcus asked one Friday in early October. They were sitting on her balcony, taking a break. The fall air was crisp, and the city spread out below them like a living thing. "I almost did once," Fiona admitted. "I was 28. He was another entrepreneur, very successful. But when he proposed, I realized he was more in love with what I represented than who I actually was. He wanted the power couple image, the strategic alliance, not me." "That is not love," Marcus said firmly. "No, it is not, but I see it all the time in my world. People together for the wrong reasons. Status, money, connections, never just because they genuinely care about each other." She looked at him. "What was it like, being really in love?" Marcus's expression softened. "It was like having a home no matter where I was." Sarah just made everything better. Even the hard times felt easier because we were facing them together. We fought sometimes, sure, but we always knew we were on the same team. He paused. "I miss that. The partnership, having someone who really knows you and loves you anyway." "You will find it again," Fiona said, trying to ignore the jealousy she felt toward a woman she had never met. "Maybe," Marcus said. "Emma keeps asking me when I am going to start dating again. She is worried about me being alone." "What do you tell her?" "That I will know when the right person comes along." He looked at Fiona, and there was something in his eyes that made her heart race. "That I am not going to settle for anything less than real." The tension between them was building, undeniable. Fiona could feel it every time they were in the same room. The way Marcus's gaze lingered on her. The way she found excuses to stand closer to him. The way their conversations grew more personal, more intimate. But neither of them made a move. Marcus was still wearing his wedding ring. And Fiona was terrified of ruining whatever this was by pushing too hard. Then came the Friday in late October when everything changed. Marcus showed up looking exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes. Fiona noticed immediately. "Are you okay?" "Emma has been sick all week." "Just a bad cold, but she has not been sleeping well, which means I have not been sleeping well." He set down his toolbox. "I almost canceled, but I did not want to leave you hanging." "Marcus, you should have canceled. Go home, be with your daughter." "She is at school." They are having a fall festival this afternoon, and she insisted on going even though she is still not 100%. "I am picking her up at 2. He checked his watch. "That gives me a few hours." "Forget the repairs," Fiona said decisively. You need rest, come on. She led him to her guest room, which had a bed that had never been slept in. Marcus looked at her like she was crazy. Fiona, I am not going to sleep on your guest bed while you pay me. Then I am not paying you for today. This is just one person helping another person. You are exhausted. Rest for an hour. I will wake you up in time to get Emma. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but his exhaustion won out. 1 hour, he agreed. Fiona left him there and returned to her living room, where she tried to work but could not concentrate. She kept thinking about him sleeping in her guest room, about how natural it felt to have him in her space. About how much she wanted this to be real, not just 4 hours every Friday. An hour later, she went to wake him and found him sleeping deeply. His face relaxed in a way she had never seen. He looked younger, more at peace. She stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching him, and realized with complete certainty that she was in love with him. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. She gently touched his shoulder, and his eyes opened immediately. For a moment he looked confused, then he saw her and smiled. I fell asleep. You needed it, but it is 1:30. You should probably head out soon. Marcus sat up, running a hand through his hair. Thank you for letting me crash here. That was really kind of you. It was nothing, Fiona said, but they both knew it was more than that. Marcus stood, and they were suddenly very close in the small room. Fiona could see the gold flecks in his blue eyes, could smell the clean scent of his soap. Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. Fiona, he said softly, I need to tell you something. Okay, she whispered. These Fridays, they have become the best part of my week. I look forward to seeing you, talking to you. You make me feel like myself again. Like I am more than just a dad and a plumber. Like I am a man with thoughts and feelings and dreams. You make me feel alive, Fiona admitted. Like I am more than just my business. Like I matter as a person, not just as a wallet. You do matter, Marcus said, reaching up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so tender that Fiona felt tears prick her eyes. You matter so much. They stood there for a long moment, and Fiona thought he might kiss her, but then Marcus stepped back, breaking the spell. I should go. Emma will be waiting. Right, of course. Fiona tried to hide her disappointment. Marcus gathered his things, and at the door he paused. Would you want to meet her? Emma, she is having a birthday party next weekend at our apartment. Nothing fancy, just pizza and cake with a few friends, but I would like you to be there if you want. Fiona's heart soared. Meeting his daughter felt significant, like crossing a threshold. I would love that. Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, I will text you the address. Marcus smiled, and it reached his eyes in a way that made Fiona weak. See you next Friday. After he left, Fiona realized he had said he would text her, which meant she had given him her number at some point. She checked her phone and found a message from an unknown number. It was just an address in Brooklyn, but seeing it there made her smile like a teenager. The week crawled by. Fiona went through the motions of her work, attending meetings and making decisions, but her mind was elsewhere. She spent an embarrassing amount of time shopping for Emma's birthday present, finally settling on a telescope. Marcus had mentioned Emma wanted to be an astronaut, and Fiona wanted to get it right. Friday came, and when Marcus arrived, the air between them felt different. Charged. He fixed a loose towel rack in her bathroom, but they both knew he was not really there for handyman work anymore. Are you nervous about tomorrow? Marcus asked as they shared coffee in her kitchen. Terrified, Fiona admitted. What if she does not like me? She will love you, Marcus said with confidence. Emma is a great judge of character, and besides, I have told her about you. You have. I might have mentioned that I have a friend who lives in a fancy apartment and is really smart and nice. He grinned. She is very excited to meet you. Just a friend? Fiona asked, unable to help herself. Marcus's smile faded, replaced by something more serious. Fiona, I need to be honest with you. I have been thinking about this a lot, about us. Because there is an us, right? I am not imagining that. You are not imagining it, Fiona said, her heart racing. I have not been with anyone since Sarah died. I did not think I would want to be, but then I met you and everything changed." He took a breath. "I am falling for you. Maybe I have already fallen, but I have Emma to think about. I cannot just jump into something without being sure. She has already lost so much." "I understand," Fiona said, and she did. "I am falling for you too, and that scares me because I do not do this. I do not let people in, but with you, it feels right. It feels like I do not have a choice." "We will take it slow," Marcus said, reaching across the counter to take her hand. His thumb traced circles on her palm, and the simple touch sent shivers through her. "Tomorrow, you will meet Emma, get to know her, see what life would really be like with us. And then we will figure out where to go from there." "Okay," Fiona agreed. "Slow, I can do slow." But when Marcus left that afternoon, he pulled her into a hug that lasted longer than friendly. Fiona buried her face in his shoulder, breathing in his scent, feeling the solid warmth of him. It was not a kiss, but it was intimate in a way that left her breathless. Saturday afternoon, Fiona stood outside a modest apartment building in Brooklyn, telescope in hand, trying to calm her nerves. She was wearing jeans and a simple blouse, having agonized over the outfit for an hour. She wanted to look approachable, not like a billionaire slumming it in Brooklyn. She pressed the buzzer for apartment 3B, and Marcus's voice came through the speaker. "Come on up." The apartment was on the 3rd floor, and Marcus was waiting at the door. He looked different in his home environment, more relaxed. He was wearing jeans and a blue Henley that brought out his eyes, and when he saw her, his face lit up in a way that made the butterflies in her stomach go crazy. "You came," he said, as if there had been any doubt. "I would not miss it," Fiona replied. Marcus took the telescope from her, his eyebrows rising. "Fiona, this is too much. It is for Emma, not you. You do not get a say." He laughed, and the sound was warm and genuine. "Come in. Everyone is in the living room." The apartment was small but clean and comfortable. There was artwork on the walls, clearly done by a child's hand. Photos everywhere, many featuring a beautiful blonde woman that Fiona recognized as Sarah. Instead of feeling jealous, she felt grateful that Emma had such a present reminder of her mother. In the living room, about 6 kids were running around, playing some game that involved a lot of shrieking. An older woman was in the kitchen, arranging pizza on plates. And in the middle of it all was Emma. She was a beautiful little girl with her father's blue eyes and her mother's blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. When she saw Marcus, she ran over, then stopped short when she noticed Fiona. "Emma, this is my friend Fiona," Marcus said. "Fiona, this is my daughter, Emma." "Hi," Emma said shyly. "Thank you for coming to my party." "Thank you for inviting me," Fiona replied, kneeling down to be at Emma's eye level. "I heard you are turning 9. That is a big deal." "Yeah, Dad says I am almost double digits." Emma looked at the telescope. "Is that for me?" "It is. I heard you want to be an astronaut." Emma's entire face lit up. "Really? Can I open it?" Marcus nodded, and Emma tore into the wrapping paper with the enthusiasm only a child could muster. When she saw what it was, she gasped. "Dad. Dad, look, it is a real telescope." "I see that, sweetheart. What do you say?" "Thank you so much." Emma threw her arms around Fiona, hugging her tight. Fiona was surprised by the gesture but hugged back, feeling something warm bloom in her chest. The party was chaotic and loud and wonderful. Fiona found herself helping serve pizza, playing silly games, and laughing more than she had in years. The other kids' parents were there, and they were friendly without being intrusive. The older woman, who introduced herself as Marcus's neighbor Mrs. Chen, watched Fiona with shrewd eyes but said nothing. When it came time for cake, Emma insisted that Fiona sit next to her. As everyone sang happy birthday, Fiona looked at Marcus across the table and found him watching her with such warmth that she had to look away before she started crying. After the other kids left, Emma begged Marcus to set up the telescope on their small balcony. While he did that, Fiona helped Mrs. Chen clean up the living room. "You are the first woman he has brought around," Mrs. Chen said casually, packing leftover pizza into containers. We are just friends, Fiona said automatically. Mrs. Chen gave her a look. I am old, not blind. That man looks at you like you hung the moon, and you look at him the same way. Fiona did not know what to say to that. Emma needs a mother, Mrs. Chen continued, and Marcus needs a partner. Sarah was a wonderful woman, but she has been gone for 3 years. It is time for him to live again. He is living, Fiona protested. He is surviving. There is a difference. Mrs. Chen patted Fiona's arm. You seem like a good person. Do not let fear keep you from something real. Before Fiona could respond, Emma called her to the balcony. Marcus had set up the telescope, and even in the light-polluted Brooklyn sky, they could see the moon clearly. Emma was enchanted, taking turns looking through the lens and describing what she saw. Fiona, look. Emma pulled her over. You can see the craters. Fiona looked through the telescope, and Emma was right. The moon's surface was pocked and beautiful, alien and familiar at once. That is amazing. Dad says maybe someday I will go there, Emma said. To the moon. If you work hard and never give up, you can do anything, Fiona told her. I know that for a fact. Were you poor when you were little? Emma asked with the directness of a child. Dad said you grew up without much money. Emma, Marcus said, a warning in his voice. It is okay, Fiona said. Yes, I was poor. My mom and I did not have much, but she taught me that where you start does not determine where you end up. That is what Dad says too, Emma said, that it does not matter that we do not have a lot of money because we have each other. Your dad is a very smart man, Fiona said, looking at Marcus. He was watching her with his daughter, and the expression on his face was so tender that it took her breath away. As the evening wound down, Emma started to yawn. Marcus sent her to brush her teeth and get ready for bed, and Fiona knew it was her cue to leave. But she found herself reluctant to go, wanting to hold on to this feeling a little longer. Thank you for coming, Marcus said, walking her to the door. It meant a lot, to both of us. Thank you for inviting me. I had a wonderful time. Fiona paused. Emma is incredible, Marcus. You have done an amazing job with her. She likes you, Marcus said. A lot. She told me while you were helping Mrs. Chen that you were pretty and nice and smart. She is a good kid, Fiona said. Fiona, Marcus said, taking her hand. I know we said slow, but I need you to know that this is not casual for me, what I feel for you. It is real and it is big and it is kind of terrifying. It is terrifying for me too, Fiona admitted. I have never felt like this before. I do not know what I am doing. Neither do I, but maybe we can figure it out together. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to her knuckles. Can I take you to dinner next week? A real date? Mrs. Chen can watch Emma. I would love that, Fiona said, her voice barely above a whisper. Friday night, 7 o'clock? It is a date. Marcus smiled, and then, before Fiona could overthink it, he leaned down and kissed her softly on the lips. It was brief and chaste, but it sent electricity through her entire body. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark and full of promise. Good night, Fiona. Good night, Marcus. Fiona floated home, barely remembering the subway ride back to Manhattan. When she got to her penthouse, it felt emptier than ever. But instead of being depressing, it felt like possibility. Like maybe this place could become a home if she had the right people to share it with. The week passed in a blur of anticipation. Fiona threw herself into work, but her mind was always partly on Friday night. She thought about what to wear, where they might go, what they would talk about. She felt like a teenager again, nervous and excited and full of hope. On Thursday, Marcus called her. Not texted, called. Fiona answered immediately. Hi, he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. I have been thinking about tomorrow night. Me too. I was going to make reservations somewhere nice. But then I thought, that is not really us, is it? Fancy restaurants, pretending to be something we are not. What did you have in mind? Fiona asked, intrigued. How about I cook for you, here at my place? Emma will be at Mrs. Chen's for a sleepover. It will be just us, no pressure, no pretense, just dinner and conversation. That sounds perfect, Fiona said, and she meant it. She had been to 1,000 fancy restaurants. but the thought of Marcus cooking for her in his small kitchen felt more intimate and meaningful than any five-star meal. Great. Come at 7, and Fiona, wear something comfortable. Jeans are fine. Friday night, Fiona showed up at Marcus's apartment wearing jeans and a soft sweater, her hair down and minimal makeup. She felt more like herself than she had in years. Marcus answered the door wearing an apron over his jeans and buttoned down, and the sight made her laugh. "What?" he asked, grinning. "You are wearing an apron. It is adorable." "I am making pasta from scratch. It is messy." He stepped aside to let her in. "Come on, you can help." The apartment smelled incredible, like garlic and herbs and something tomato-based. Marcus had set the small dining table with mismatched plates and a candle in the middle. It was not elegant, but it was real. In the kitchen, Marcus showed her how to roll out pasta dough, his hands guiding hers. They laughed as flour ended up everywhere, including on Fiona's face. Marcus wiped it away with his thumb, his touch lingering on her cheek. "You have sauce on your nose," Fiona said, reaching up to wipe it away. "Do I?" Marcus caught her hand, pulling her closer. "How about now?" "Still there," Fiona whispered. Marcus leaned down and kissed her, and this time it was not brief or chaste. It was deep and thorough and full of all the longing they had been holding back. Fiona's hands went to his hair, and his arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her flush against him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "I have wanted to do that for weeks." "Me too," Fiona admitted. They finished making dinner together, stealing kisses between stirring sauce and draining pasta. When they finally sat down to eat, the food was delicious, but Fiona barely tasted it. She was too focused on Marcus, on the way he looked at her, on the feel of his leg pressed against hers under the small table. After dinner, they moved to the couch with glasses of wine. Marcus put on soft music and they talked for hours about everything and nothing, about their hopes and fears, about what they wanted from life, about how unexpected this all was. "I never thought I would feel this way again," Marcus admitted. "After Sarah died, I thought that part of my life was over, that I would just focus on Emma and work, and that would be enough." "And now?" Fiona asked. "Now I realize that love does not have a limit, that opening my heart to you does not mean I loved Sarah any less. It just means I have more love to give." He took Fiona's hand. "I am falling in love with you, Fiona. Maybe I am already there, and I need you to know that this is real for me. You are not a replacement or a distraction. You are something entirely new." Fiona felt tears prick her eyes. "I am already in love with you. I think I have been since that first day you showed up to fix my sink. You were so genuine, so real. You saw me as a person, not as a billionaire or a business opportunity, just me." "You are pretty incredible," Marcus said softly. "Smart and kind and beautiful. Emma adores you already. Mrs. Chen approves, which is harder to earn than you might think." "What about you?" Fiona asked. "Do you approve?" "I am crazy about you," Marcus said, pulling her into his lap. "I think about you constantly. I dream about you. I want to know everything about you, every little thing that makes you who you are." They kissed again, slower this time but no less intense. Fiona could feel Marcus's heart beating against her own, could taste the wine on his lips, could lose herself in the feeling of being held by him. When his hands slipped under her sweater to touch bare skin, she gasped. "Too much?" he asked, pulling back. "Not enough," Fiona breathed, but Marcus shook his head. "Not tonight. When we take that step, I want it to be right. I want to be sure." Fiona wanted to argue, but she understood. This was not just about them. It was about Emma, too, about building something that would last. "Okay, slow," Marcus agreed. "But for the record, you are making it very difficult to be a gentleman." Fiona laughed, resting her head on his shoulder. They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other, listening to the music and the sounds of the city outside. When Fiona finally left around midnight, they stood in the doorway, kissing goodbye for so long that Marcus joked they should just sleep standing up. But eventually, Fiona forced herself to leave, floating home on a cloud of happiness. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Marcus came to her penthouse every Friday for what they jokingly called maintenance, though less and less actual work got done. Mostly they talked and kissed and planned dates. They went to museums and parks, to diners in Brooklyn and food trucks in Manhattan. They did things Fiona had never done, like visiting the library and playing mini golf. Fiona also spent more time with Emma. She went to one of Emma's violin recitals, which was as painful as Marcus had warned, but also adorable. She helped with homework, discovering that third-grade math was harder than she remembered. She taught Emma about stars and space, using the telescope on their balcony. Slowly, carefully, they were building something real. Fiona found herself spending less time at work and more time in Brooklyn. She started keeping clothes at Marcus's apartment. She learned how he took his coffee and what side of the bed he preferred. She met his friends and the other parents from Emma's school, and with each day, she fell more deeply in love. It was not always easy. There were moments when Fiona's wealth created tension, like when she offered to pay for a new roof on Marcus's building and he refused, insisting he could handle it himself. Or when she suggested taking them on vacation to her house in the Hamptons, and Marcus, worried about Emma missing school. They had their first real fight in December, 3 months after they met. Fiona had bought Emma a laptop for Christmas, a top-of-the-line model that cost more than Marcus made in a month. When he saw it, his jaw tightened. "Fiona, we talked about this. You cannot just buy expensive things for Emma without asking me first. It is a Christmas present. I wanted to get her something nice. Nice is a book or a toy. This is over the top." Marcus ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "I cannot compete with that. I cannot give her things like this." "I am not asking you to compete," Fiona said, her own frustration rising. "I just wanted to do something nice for her. But do not you see, when you do things like this, it makes me feel like I am not enough, like I cannot provide for my own daughter." Fiona felt like she had been slapped. "That is not what I meant at all. I just have the means, so why not use them to make people I care about happy?" "Because money is not what makes people happy," Marcus shot back. "Love makes people happy. Time makes people happy. Being present makes people happy." They stood there, staring at each other, both angry and hurt. Then Fiona sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. "I do not know how to do this. I have never been in a relationship where money was an issue. I just wanted to give Emma something that would help her with school, with her dreams." Marcus sat down beside her, his anger deflating. "I know, and I am sorry for overreacting. It is just hard sometimes, feeling like I am not enough. You live in this completely different world, and sometimes I wonder what you are doing with a guy like me." "You are everything," Fiona said fiercely, taking his hand. "You are kind and honest and real. You are an amazing father. You make me laugh. You make me feel like I matter. Do you think I care about your bank account? I have enough money for both of us. What I did not have was love. And you gave me that." Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "I am sorry. You are right. I just need to get used to this. To you, to us. We will figure it out," Fiona promised. "Together." They returned the laptop and got Emma a smaller, more age-appropriate tablet instead. Marcus was happy, Emma was thrilled, and Fiona learned an important lesson about navigating the differences in their circumstances. Christmas was magical. Fiona spent Christmas Eve with Marcus and Emma, decorating their small tree and making cookies. She had sent her assistant to every toy store in Manhattan to find the perfect gifts, things that were meaningful without being excessive. For Emma, she got books about space and a journal for her to write in. For Marcus, she got a leather tool belt with his initials embossed on it and a photo album filled with pictures of him and Emma that she had secretly printed. When Marcus opened the album, his eyes filled with tears. "Fiona, this is perfect, thank you." On Christmas morning, Fiona woke up in her own penthouse, and for the first time, it did not feel like home. Home was in Brooklyn, in a small apartment with a man and his daughter. She went through the motions of Christmas calls with business associates, but her heart was elsewhere. That evening, Marcus surprised her by showing up at her door with Emma. "We could not let you spend Christmas alone," he said, holding a plate of leftovers. Mrs. Chen sent food. They spent the evening watching Christmas movies and eating ham and cookies. Emma fell asleep on the couch between them, and Marcus carried her to Fiona's guest room, tucking her in gently. When he came back, he pulled Fiona into his arms. "I got you something," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Fiona's heart stopped. The box was too small to be a ring, but still. She opened it to find a delicate silver bracelet with 3 charms, a heart, a star, and a small house. "The heart is for love," Marcus explained. "The star is for Emma because she shines so bright, and the house is for home. Because you have given us both a home in your heart, and we want to give you the same." Fiona was crying now, unable to stop the tears. "Marcus, it is beautiful." "I love you," he said simply. "I love you so much it scares me. I want to build a life with you if you will have us." "I want that more than anything," Fiona said, kissing him. "I love you too, both of you." That night, with Emma sleeping in the guest room, Marcus stayed over for the first time. Nothing happened beyond cuddling and talking in the dark, but it felt significant. Like they were crossing another threshold. The new year brought changes. Fiona started restructuring her business so she could work fewer hours. She hired managers she trusted and delegated more. It was hard, giving up control, but she realized that Marcus was right. Time was more valuable than money. She also started looking at apartments in Brooklyn. Her penthouse was beautiful, but it was not practical for the life she wanted to build. She wanted to be closer to Marcus and Emma, wanted to be part of their community. When she told Marcus, he was quiet for a long moment. "You would really move to Brooklyn? Give up your view, your space, all of that?" "In a heartbeat," Fiona said. "None of it matters without you." In February, Marcus finally took off his wedding ring. He did it quietly, not making a big announcement. But Fiona noticed immediately. When she looked at him questioningly, he took her hand. "Sarah will always be part of my life, part of Emma's life, but I am ready to move forward, with you." He kissed her softly. "I am ready to let myself be happy again." That night, they made love for the first time. It was slow and tender and perfect, and Fiona felt like she was finally, truly home. Afterward, lying in Marcus's arms in his small bedroom, she realized this was what she had been missing her entire life. Connection, intimacy, love. "I want to marry you," Marcus said into the darkness. "Someday, when the time is right, I want you to be Emma's stepmother. I want us to be a family." "Yes," Fiona said without hesitation. "Whenever you are ready, yes." They spent the spring planning their future. Fiona found an apartment in Brooklyn, a spacious place with 3 bedrooms and a rooftop terrace where they could set up Emma's telescope. It was not a penthouse, but it was warm and bright and felt like home. Emma was thrilled at the prospect of Fiona being closer. "Does this mean you are going to be my stepmom?" she asked one day when they were working on homework together. Fiona looked at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. "Would you want that?" Fiona asked carefully. "Yes." Emma threw her arms around Fiona. "I love you, Fiona. You make Dad happy and you are really nice to me. I think Mom would like you." Fiona hugged her back, tears streaming down her face. "I love you too, sweetie, so much." In June, on a perfect Saturday afternoon, Marcus took Fiona and Emma to Central Park. They had a picnic by the lake, and Emma ran around chasing ducks while Marcus and Fiona sat on a blanket, watching her. "She is so happy," Fiona observed. "I love seeing her like this." "She is happy because you are in her life," Marcus said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Fiona's heart stopped. "I know I said someday, but I have been thinking, why wait? Life is short. I learned that the hard way. When you find something real, something good, you hold on to it." He opened the box to reveal a simple but beautiful diamond ring. "Fiona Sterling, will you marry me? Will you be Emma's stepmother and my partner in all things? Will you build a life with us?" "Yes," Fiona said through her tears. "Yes, yes, yes." Marcus slipped the ring on her finger and it fit perfectly. He kissed her, deep and long, and Emma came running over, shrieking with excitement. "Are you engaged?" Are you really going to be my mom? We are engaged, Fiona confirmed, pulling Emma into their hug. And I am going to be your stepmom. The three of them stood there in the park, wrapped around each other, and Fiona felt a sense of peace she had never known. This was what mattered. Not money or success or any of it, just love, just family. They decided on a small wedding in September. Just close friends and family, a simple ceremony in a garden, nothing ostentatious. Fiona could have had anything she wanted, any venue, any designer. But she wanted something real, something that reflected who they actually were. Planning the wedding was a joint effort. Emma helped pick out flowers and design the invitations. Marcus handled the catering, insisting on cooking some of the food himself. Fiona found a dress that was elegant but not overdone, and she felt beautiful in it. The months flew by. Fiona officially moved into the Brooklyn apartment in August, and it felt right in a way her penthouse never had. She kept the penthouse for business purposes, but her home was now in Brooklyn with Marcus and Emma. They established routines. Family dinners every night, movie nights on Fridays, Sunday morning pancakes. Fiona had never had routines like this, had never understood their value. But now she cherished them, these small rituals that bound them together as a family. Emma started calling her Fiona Mom, which turned into just Mom by late August. The first time Emma called her mom without thinking about it, Fiona cried for an hour. It was the greatest honor of her life. The wedding day arrived on a perfect September morning. The garden was decorated simply, with white flowers and fairy lights. There were maybe 30 people there, all people they genuinely cared about. Mrs. Chen was in the front row, beaming. Emma was the flower girl, taking her job very seriously. When Fiona walked down the aisle, she did not have anyone to give her away. Her mother was gone, and she had no other family. But halfway down, Emma ran up and took her hand, walking with her the rest of the way. It was not planned, but it was perfect. Marcus was waiting at the altar, looking devastatingly handsome in a simple suit. When he saw Fiona, his eyes filled with tears. She reached him, and Emma stepped back, and they stood there facing each other. The officiant was a friend of Marcus's, a kind older man who had known Sarah. "We are here today to celebrate love," he began. "Not the absence of loss, but the courage to love again. Not the forgetting of the past, but the embracing of the future." They exchanged vows they had written themselves. Marcus went first, his voice thick with emotion. "Fiona, you came into my life when I thought I was done with happiness. You showed me that love does not have limits, that the heart can expand to hold more than we think possible. You have been kind to my daughter, patient with my fears, and generous with your heart. I promise to love you, to honor you, to be your partner in all things. I promise to never take you for granted, to always see you for who you really are. I promise to build a life with you that is full of love and laughter and honest work." Fiona was crying before he finished. She took a breath and began her vows. "Marcus, you fixed my sink, but you also fixed my heart. You showed me what really matters in life. Not money or success, but connection and love. You taught me the value of honest work, of showing up every day and doing your best. You gave me a family, something I had given up on ever having. I promise to love you with everything I am. I promise to be the best stepmother I can be to Emma. I promise to never let my old life come before this life we are building together. I promise to always choose love." They exchanged rings, and when the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Marcus kissed her like she was his whole world. Because she was, and he was hers. The reception was in the same garden, with catered food and a small band. They had their first dance to a slow song that made Fiona cry again. Emma joined them halfway through, and they danced as a family. Later, as the sun set and the fairy lights glowed, Fiona stood with Marcus on the edge of the garden, watching Emma dance with Mrs. Chen. No regrets. Marcus asked, his arm around her waist. "Not a single one," Fiona said. "This is the happiest day of my life." "Mine too," Marcus said. "Well, second happiest. The day Emma was born still holds the top spot," Fiona laughed. "I will allow that." They went on a honeymoon, just the two of them, to a cabin in upstate New York. It was quiet and private, and they spent a week doing nothing but being together. They hiked and cooked and made love and talked about the future. "I want more kids," Fiona admitted one night as they sat on the porch, watching stars. "If you do," Marcus pulled her close. "I would love that. Emma has been asking for a sibling since she was 5. She is going to be thrilled." "Really, you are sure?" "I am sure," Marcus said, kissing her temple. "I am sure about everything when it comes to you." When they returned home, they told Emma, who was indeed thrilled. "A baby. I am going to be a big sister. This is the best day ever." Life settled into a beautiful rhythm after that. Fiona continued to scale back her business, focusing on only the projects that truly mattered to her. Marcus kept his plumbing business, but he hired another plumber so he could work less and be home more. Emma thrived, excelling in school and in her violin lessons that were slowly starting to sound like actual music. In the spring, Fiona discovered she was pregnant. When she told Marcus, he picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing and crying. They told Emma that night, and she immediately started planning how she would help take care of the baby. The pregnancy was easy, and Fiona glowed with happiness. Marcus was attentive and devoted, and Emma was excited beyond measure. They painted the nursery together, a soft yellow that would work for a boy or a girl. They picked out furniture and clothes, and Fiona felt more content than she had ever thought possible. In December, exactly a year after Marcus had first told Fiona he loved her, their son was born. They named him Michael, after Marcus's father, and he was perfect. Emma cried when she first held him, being so gentle and careful. Marcus could not stop staring at him, this new little life they had created together. "He is beautiful," Marcus whispered, holding his son for the first time. "Just like his mother." Fiona looked at her family, at her husband and daughter and newborn son, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. A year ago, she had been alone in a penthouse, wealthy but empty. Now she was in a hospital room in Brooklyn, surrounded by love, and she had never been richer. They brought Michael home to their apartment, and life became wonderfully chaotic. Emma was a devoted big sister, always wanting to help. Marcus was an experienced dad, confident and capable. And Fiona learned as she went, finding joy in the midnight feedings and diaper changes that her former self would have found unthinkable. Mrs. Chen came over constantly, bringing food and offering advice. The apartment was always full of people now, friends and neighbors and family by choice if not by blood. It was loud and messy and absolutely perfect. On their first anniversary, Marcus surprised Fiona with a trip back to her penthouse, which she had been planning to sell. But when they walked in, it was transformed. He had spent months secretly renovating it, turning it into something new. It was still beautiful, but now it felt warm. There were photos on the walls of their family, Emma's artwork hanging in the hallway, baby toys in what used to be the pristine living room. "I know you were going to sell it," Marcus said, "but I thought, what if we kept it? Used it as a family space, somewhere we could go when we need more room or when you have business meetings, but made it ours, not just yours." Fiona looked around, tears streaming down her face. He had taken this monument to her loneliness and turned it into a home. "It is perfect. You are perfect." "I am far from perfect," Marcus said, pulling her close, "but I am perfect for you." They made love that night in the penthouse, and it felt like closing a circle. This place where she had once been so alone was now filled with love. As Michael grew from an infant to a toddler, their family continued to thrive. Marcus's business expanded, not because he was chasing success, but because his reputation for honest work brought in more clients than he could handle. Fiona started a foundation focused on helping single parents, using her wealth to make a real difference in people's lives. Emma grew into a confident preteen, still dreaming of space, still playing her violin. She called Fiona Mom without hesitation, and while she still talked about Sarah, it was with love rather than pain. Fiona made sure Emma knew about her birth mother, keeping Sarah's memory alive for her daughter. When Michael was 2, Fiona discovered she was pregnant again. They had not been planning it, but the surprise was a welcome one. Emma was thrilled at the prospect of another sibling, and Marcus joked that they were building their own basketball team. Their second son was born in the spring, and they named him Samuel. He was the spitting image of Marcus, with the same blue eyes and easy smile. Emma was now old enough to be a real helper, and she took her big sister duties seriously. Life was messy and chaotic and wonderful. Their apartment was always full of noise, of laughter, of life. Fiona's business took up less and less of her time as she focused on what really mattered. Marcus continued to work, but he was always home for dinner, always present for the important moments. On a Saturday afternoon, 5 years after Marcus had first shown up to fix Fiona's sink, they were all in the park. Emma was showing Michael how to use the telescope, pointing out different stars. Samuel was toddling around, chasing pigeons. Marcus and Fiona sat on a blanket, watching their children. "Do you ever miss it?" Marcus asked. "The excitement of your old life, the power, the prestige?" Fiona looked at him, at this man who had changed everything. "Not even for a second. This is everything I ever wanted. I just did not know it until I met you." "I love you," Marcus said, kissing her softly. "Thank you for choosing us, for choosing this life." "Thank you for showing me what love really means," Fiona replied. "For teaching me that honest work, whether it is fixing a sink or raising children or building a life together, is what matters most." Emma called them over to look at the stars, and they gathered around the telescope as a family. As Fiona looked up at the night sky, with Marcus's arm around her and her children beside her, she felt a sense of peace and completeness that all her billions had never brought her. She had been wrong about so much. Success was not measured in dollars or deals. It was measured in moments like these, in love freely given and received, in the family you built with your whole heart. Marcus had come to her penthouse to fix a sink, but he had ended up fixing so much more. He had fixed her heart, her life, her understanding of what really mattered. And in return, she had given him her whole self, holding nothing back. Their love story had not been conventional. A billionaire and a struggling single dad should not have worked. But they did work, because they saw each other clearly, without pretense or pride. They had built something real together, something that would last. As they packed up to go home, with Emma holding Samuel's hand and Marcus carrying a sleeping Michael, Fiona looked at her family and smiled. This was her empire now. Not buildings or businesses, but this. Love and laughter and ordinary moments made extraordinary by the people you shared them with, and it was worth more than all the money in the world.